Yeah, sorry, I clicked on a link. I want to see what this YouTube thing is going away. What's this new YouTube webcam thing? Okay, this is a future me problem. Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 189 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the #1 live podcast in Canada. We're recording on July the 8th, 2019.
Essentially, there's a lot of copying and pasting going on there.
Yeah, a little bit. Little.
My name is Ian. I'm a hobby farmer on Vancouver Island. In order to get some of Trudeau's media money, they needed a Western-based diversity hire, and nobody else volunteered.
Hi, my name is Benny. I live in Toronto. Sorry.
As always, I'm your host. My name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, a competitive shooter, and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical.
We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. A version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes.
Check our podcast out at Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at www.instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
We need your help to support the show. You should visit patreon.com/CPP to become a Patreon today. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode, and the more you pledge, the better the rewards are. You can show you're not a communist by buying a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and government theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com homepage and click the link all the way on the right. Always go all the way to the right.
When in doubt.
All right, just all the way to the right.
All the way to the right. Oh, wow. Is Tim here?
Sure. I have a game.
Hello, Tim. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Liberal Tim. I'm a husband and father of 3 and a sports shooter, and I'm the proud descendant of immigrants.
Yeah, you are. All right, let's do What Are We Drinking? What Are We Drinking is brought to us every week by Arrowhead Coffee. Arrowhead Coffee is owned and operated by Canadian Armed Forces veterans. They love our country, the true north, strong and free, their family and friends. Join Arrowhead Coffee on their hunt for the perfect brew to raise morale and bring that feeling of home to you, no matter where you are. A portion of all profits helps Canadian Armed Forces members, veterans, and their families. And now we get to do What Are We Drinking? As always, we go from left to right on my screen. So for our audio listeners, you have to imagine Ian's childhood bedroom?
It kind of looks like that from behind, doesn't it?
A little bit. What are you drinking, Ian?
Unfortunately, the wage cooking continues tonight, so it's just a green tea. Sorry.
Wages.
Well, I like money. I like money. I'd like more of it, so that's where the job comes in.
That's reasonable. The government demands that I pay taxes on property which I have already purchased, so I will have to continue working until such time as I no longer own that property.
Sprechen Sie wage cuck?
So in reality, if you're still paying rent on it no matter what, do you really own it?
No.
I mean, not really.
Yeah, no.
No. Benny, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Alexander Keith's Indian Pale Ale tonight.
Oh, you poor guy.
No, I'm really excited for you right now. I didn't know
No,
you
I'm
drank
just kidding.
these.
I like Alec.
I was like,
these.
I went to a wedding in the States, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you're from Canada. There's some good beer out there. Alexander Keith's." I'm like, wow, for a guy who really knows his beer, he thinks the beer I like is good. That's pretty good.
That was pretty good. I like when they say down there. Oh yeah, you drink good beer down there.
It's all tucked away down there, Canada. It's easy to miss, right?
Yeah.
What's the longitude of Toronto? No, the latitude of Toronto. It's further south than 30% of the United States, something like that.
It is 47 degrees north, so I've been told, and which is like basically Northern California.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So,
That's
I mean,
pretty
you
south.
It is kind of south. It is tucked in there.
Tuck to yuck tuck.
Yeah.
I was going to make an
High school,
LGBT joke, but okay, we could go with the Inuit joke instead.
That's how they made fun of the guys from Michigan. They're further north than in some of Canada.
Yeah. Sorry, Michigan. Tim, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Crown Royal and reverse osmosis water.
All right. Tim needs to update the show notes.
Yes, I will.
Let's talk about the Podcaster Charity Shoot. This is the 9th annual Canadian Podcaster Charity Shoot. that just occurred in Drumheller, which everyone who's listened to literally any episode ever in the back catalog, that's not true. Any of the most recent episodes of the back catalog, we've been talking about this thing for, I don't know, months, 2 months, something like that.
At least.
Ian, you attended it. Would you
Yes,
like
I
to
did.
share your stories, your
Absolutely.
experiences?
For sure.
You
Well,
want to
first
show
of
us on the doll where Slamfire touched you?
all, that's unfortunately that's the wait till the court case happens. Unfortunately, but and Trevor did say he was really sorry the next day. But what are you gonna do? I just got a text from a friend reminding me that it's actually 43 north for Toronto, not 47. So I've already been corrected. So we'll just throw that right in there. Maybe we could edit out that first part.
Thanks, intern.
I love interns. Anyway,
Yeah, whoever that intern is now hired.
exactly. So
Welcome to the
podcast-
watch lists.
Sorry. So the podcast for charity shoot. So in attendance, we had Gavin, myself, Angela, also known as Baby Goes Pew Pew, Trevor, Adriel, Kelly from the Slamfire, Random Dave, of course, from multiple web podcasts, Stacy, who's the Maple Seed Goddess from the States, and Rod Giltaka himself. We also had a couple honorable mentions with Gallon and Filthy, or kind of like Facebook CCFR kind of people. And Filthy was nice enough to bring his Stormtrooper mask, which made him very easy to recognize no matter where he went. So as far as stuff goes, we started off first thing in the morning with a Stop the Bleed class. And pretty much everybody I just mentioned was there, as well as a couple other local guys. So there's about 12 or 13 people in attendance for the Stop the Bleed class. And so I think Gavin raised about $500 for that, for the charity.
Nice.
Just with the Stop the Bleed alone. So then we started off with a kind of a range briefing. Had multiple stations, of course. One of them was the Know Your Limits pistol, and it had basically like 3 different distance targets. They were like 2-inch circles at 5, 10, and 15 yards, which I totally embarrassed myself with because that's where I started my shooting day, and I managed to get 4 out of the 6, and they weren't all the same distance. You would think I'd missed the last 2, but I missed the 2 middle ones. And they had a bunch of pro hit pistols there. So they had Lugers, Derringers, like full on, like 2-inch barrel Derringers. They had some Desert Eagles. They had kind of a wide variety. Snub nose revolvers, all sorts of stuff you could pay to shoot. Let's see here. Then they went off to the rifle range where they had anything from 25 to 300 yards. At the 300-yard stage was Rob Furlong. For those not in the know, he actually set a world record for a while with the long-distance sniper shot over in Afghanistan, and promptly retired from the forces thereafter due to some shenanigans not on his part. Very nice guy, and offering good advice and good tips and tricks. He was showing off some local rifles because I guess he's started his own company as well. Name escapes me right now, but basically it's like a high-end long-distance shooting company, as well as they do custom work on rifles. Do you know that one, Andrew?
I don't know who he's working with now. It's not
Yeah,
Gothic Line, is it?
No, I think maybe it's Call Sign 66. Is that it? Does that ring a bell? Anyway,
Call Sign 60. I don't know that those guys make rifles, but they are cool to go shoot with.
yeah, they had a big patch on his shoulder with that. But anyway, but then we had man-size steel targets at 2 and 300 yards as well, which was nice because I hadn't taken my red dot that far before, so it worked out well. Then we had the El Presidente set up for the second pistol range, except for because they had all sorts of people that didn't have the black badge, like myself. I don't have a black badge, and so they didn't allow holster usage, but they just basically had the gun on the barrel in front of you, and you had to clock off 12 rounds with 1 mandatory mag change. That was timed and scored on. Of course, Trevor took that one pretty handily, I think. And see, other than that, they had some axe and knife throwing, and then when the shooting all wrapped up, but a little bit later than they planned because they had a huge attendance for this one. They gave us about half an hour to run back, change, get ourselves prettied up, and head off to the pig roast. So the pig roast was held at a local community hall, and they had like kind of an upper stage where they put the podcasters, so we got to blabber in front of a crowd. And let's see here, they had, of course, everything on silent auction for the most part, except for they had actually live auctions. It turns out that Jason Philp, who organized the podcaster charity shoot, is actually an auctioneer, so he was doing his bit at the fundraiser there, which was pretty entertaining. Yeah, so he was doing a full-on auctioneer thing, and like they had a Remington RP9, which I thought would maybe go for $150, went for like 700, I think. And then they had a couple shotguns that went for way more than I thought they would. One was a Mossberg chainsaw, and the other was a Turkish pump. And they definitely made a profit on those ones, I'm thinking. Even like a barrel, like the top of a oak barrel cask was turned into a clock, and I think Kelly from Slamfire had her eye on it, but in the end, ended up going to a local guy for like $1,500.
Holy cow!
It was crazy. It was like, are you serious? Like, we were out at like 200. We're thinking, no, that's good enough for me. And yeah, there's actually quite a few items on there, and I think that they did make their goal of $10,000. I know that for sure because Jason Philp gave us a quick update there on the Facebook Messenger. So they had a lofty goal of 10,000 and met it pretty handily. So overall success, and I think it was well received by everybody. And on a personal note, I mean, that was my first podcast or charity shoot, and being the kind of the new kid on the block for everything, everybody was more than welcoming, very friendly, kind of like meeting like this long lost family and type of thing. And it was really well attended, and yeah, just really enjoyable.
So, 10th annual charity shoot in BC?
It is going to be in Restigouche. They're going to alternate between Restigouche and other random places. So yeah, next year New Brunswick.
Hard pass.
At least you could probably drive it.
I could drive to Alberta too, but I've
Yeah.
driven to New Brunswick, and I don't feel that I need to spend more time in New Brunswick unless the government feels inclined to pay me again.
That's true. But Random Dave drove all the way out from Ontario, which I have to tip my hat to that. So it was nice to meet him in person as well. And he definitely wins the award for longest drive.
Good for Random Dave.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good stuff overall.
Yeah, good for and the yeah.
No, it was.
Yay, gun people raising $10,000 for charity.
Yeah,
It's
that's
almost
a very
like we're not. It's not like we're actually monsters. We only play them on the podcast.
Yeah, actually, the lady that was in charge of the Anti-Vassal Association, she was just tickled pink. She was actually brought to tears. She did a nice little speech at the end and made all the females of the tens get all weepy. But she was very appreciative of the fact that they received no government funding. So this basically allows them 3 months of operation minimum, right off the bat.
Sweet. Good for the community. Good for them.
Yeah. So that's pretty
How
much
did
it.
Thunderdome go?
Oh, totally embarrassing moment. We were all getting all hyped up for it, and Gavin and I. Well, there was. Let's say the booze was flowing like wine, shall we say, in the words of Dumb and Dumber there. So unfortunately, we had a little chat with Rod and had a couple of good pictures taken and stuff. And then Rod gave a speech and then promptly left early in the evening. And after he left, I kind of looked at Gavin and said, "We totally forgot about Thunderdome." I was like, well, I guess we'll have to do a rematch next year or something because we didn't have time to bring him in on the joke.
All of those months of training are for naught. Now you have another year to train.
Yeah, here I thought I was going to have to stand and deliver, so to speak, but nothing. And Rod was none the wiser. So it happens.
Well, obviously he doesn't listen to the podcast.
Actually, I think he must because he did know a few things about both of ours. So maybe he'd listened to the last couple episodes. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe someone give him the cold notes.
Could be. Maybe he's pre-briefed by his intern or something.
His intern needs to set up the interview that I've requested from him. That's what we need.
I think he was just about to until I called him Rattlestar Galactica.
I don't know, man. That's possibly okay. Important question: original Rattlestar Galactica or new Katie Sackhoff and Edward James Olmos Rattlestar Galactica?
Dirk Benedict has to be. Come on now, it has to be the original.
I don't know, man. Katie Sackhoff in that flight suit.
Okay, fair enough. But I like the original, like the reused scenes over and over. It's kind of like the Flintstones, except for in space.
Yeah, and Edward James almost smashed that model ship. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I do not remember that.
That was there was he was supposedly building the ship, and he flips out and smashes it, and he didn't know it was actually it was like a $20,000 model ship that was like on loan for them for. Actors.
Well, that's less good. Actors. I don't know. My wife is flashing me a post-it note that I can't read from this far away because she used small text on light paper.
Is it Edward James Olmos related?
I don't know. It's probably Katie Sackhoff related. I'm going to guess that I'm in trouble. Oh, good. The post-it note is getting bigger. Little does she know that I still can't read it. All right, let's do some news. First one's an oldie but a goodie. This is the story that keeps on giving. We've talked about this for probably as long as we've been doing the podcast. Man who stabbed 2 personnel at Toronto Military Recruitment Center should be deemed a terrorist. The Crown.
Is it because he said Allah Akbar?
Yes, and then claimed allegiance to ISIS.
Oh.
But he's definitely not a terrorist. He's just mentally ill.
Yeah.
He's confused.
So this goes back to something that happened in Toronto, shocking, in 2016. An individual, yeah, well, as you should be.
Was it 20? Was it that? Was it that recent?
Yeah, it was 2000. It was March of 2016. Like, this was one of the. We've probably talked about this guy like 4 or 5 times on the show over the last couple of years.
Maybe we should have the next podcast charity shoot in Toronto.
Hard pass.
We've got the largest outdoor range in the country.
Yeah.
Jane and Finch.
Freestyle.
Ouch.
I mean,
we use sites.
Where's the lie, though? All right, so the gift that keeps on giving, except that he's been deemed mentally unfit to be responsible for his actions. This is from last year. There was a trial, and the judge at the trial ruled that this was not, in fact, terrorism, and that an individual, in this case, could not be considered to be committing terrorist acts because he is not a group of terrorists, which baffles me immensely.
It's like he doesn't know how to define a word.
Well, I feel like this is sort of more liberal hug-a-thug policies. This, like, the same individual has been declared mentally ill and not criminally responsible for his actions, and is not in jail and is being kept in a hospital of some description, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, could we?
I don't
I'm sorry to cut you off, but could we just get right to the haiku? Is he getting enough haikus?
No, but there is pedagogy. So
okay.
Pedagogy? I forget. Yeah, pedagogy. That's the right word, right?
No, you're correct. I just that was funny.
With sour cream and fried onions.
I love those things.
Yeah.
Oh, pedagogy. So he was ruled at trial to not be criminally responsible for stabbing people, despite the fact that he claimed that this was a crime that he was doing in the name of ISIS. Although that part is conveniently not mentioned. The terrorist organization in question is not at all mentioned in this article from the National Post for some entirely unclear reason.
That's why I thought I'd bring it up right out of the gate.
Well, I appreciate that. So the judge has ruled that Section 83.2 of the Criminal Code is directed only at associative conduct and not intended to capture the terrorist activity by a lone wolf. This is commentary by the Crown that's now going to appeal on this. So we're going to the Ontario Court of Appeals because they want this guy charged as a terrorist. And the judge at the original trial and, of course, his defense attorneys both think that this is unreasonable. He is not a terrorist. He's just a very mentally damaged person. There's a great line in here. I'm trying to find the quote that I want in the article, but there was a quote from the I think it was from the judge. It might have been from the defense attorneys that oh no, it was from the judge. Awesome. Motivated by his extremist beliefs, the emergence of those beliefs was linked to his mental illness. The judge found that the individual was acting alone and thus not for the benefit of a terrorist group.
Yeah.
So, because of his mental illness, that's why he thought he could do things in the name of ISIS. Because mental illness leads to terrorism.
Clearly.
That is a tenuous link at best, in my opinion.
It's funny how they kind of orbited around the whole aspect of maybe some religious extremism, but I guess you wouldn't want to go there in the papers, huh?
You can't say that it's religious extremism. Just because he walked into the recruiting center and started shouting Allah Akbar and stabbing people doesn't mean that it was religiously motivated.
I know. I'm just clearly slanted against them. That's what it is. Man. Yeah.
So fingers crossed this goes to the appeals court. The Crown wins the appeal. This guy goes to actual jail where criminals go. And then in our new right-wing utopia, we bring back the death penalty and we can watch this guy swing in the breeze.
On pay-per-view.
In Minecraft. After a completely...
On my Minecraft server.
Yeah, after complete due process and all legal... Yeah.
It's at the end of the nether.
For legal reasons, I'm required to tell you that this is a joke. But yeah, I'd watch this dude swing.
And for entertainment only.
Yeah. This whole the fact that there's a judge in Ontario that's trying to make a ruling about this concerns me, because the vast majority of recent, I hate to use the term, terrorism cases in this country have been perpetrated by individuals. A certain individual going by a different nom de plume in Montreal at École Polytechnique, who was motivated by a certain religion, you might say. The Parliament Hill shooter that also killed Corporal Cirillo.
There's some van drivers of peace.
The van driver of peace earlier this year in Toronto. The van driver of peace last year in Toronto. The van driver of peace in Vancouver.
One in Edmonton.
Right, the van driver of peace in Edmonton in the winter. How could I forget about that? I mean, yeah. I'm sure that these individuals are all just not criminally responsible for their actions, and they're just crazy people. That's all it is.
What if the Danforth shooter was crazy too, then?
Or the guy that blew up Bombay, India in Toronto, Mississauga, wherever that restaurant was that got blown up? I'm sure these are all isolated lone wolf incidences, and they are not motivated in any way by any sort of common link between them, other than that the perpetrators are all not criminally responsible and not mentally fit to stand trial. I'm sure that's the only common thread. We
did cover the Danforth shooting pretty well, but just a little factoid, if anyone's just tuning in recently, that never really made it high up in the media. It wasn't really noted and pointed out. Was that he did come across someone on his shooting spree. He did kind of in a back alley. He came across someone who's going to work. I think this person was Sikh, and he said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you." And then he just carried on with his shooting spree.
Oh well,
because he mistook him for one of his brothers. So
that's possible, yeah.
Yes. So he figured he wasn't going to shoot him. Anyway,
I look forward to next year when we hear about the Court of Appeals decision. Because, again, we don't publicize the names of assholes on the podcast, but I may or may not have a Google News alert for this guy's name, and I may or may not be interested to see what the next story is that it shows up in. Let's do something different. CBC. Mandarins. Free Canada Day buffet for citizens. Pandas discrimination.
Is this kind of like the census form in the States asking if you're a citizen being a big no-no? Same idea.
I don't. There's a lot of labor lawyers involved in this, and I feel like they're confusing labor law with what businesses are allowed to do privately when they offer free services to the public. It's not discrimination, although the CBC seems to make it out to be that way, as do all of the lawyers that are quoted in this article. It's almost like the CBC went to people that supported their point of view to get quotes that would support their preconceived notion. Like they had some sort of a bias or something. I'm sure the CBC would never do that. I mean, they have a statement of journalistic integrity saying that they would explicitly never do that sort of thing.
Okay, so the CBC doesn't agree with racism?
I guess not.
They think this is racist to have it.
No, it's not racist. It's discriminatory. I don't think there's a more specific.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is discriminatory.
I don't think there falls into another ism. But,
wouldn't that make any government benefit that is only open to citizens discriminatory? What's the difference if the government does it or a private institution? And they're not saying they won't serve them.
If the government does it, it's my money, and if it's a private institution, it's your money, and
Yeah,
that's
but
the
it could
difference.
be a government-funded like institution, like the CBC, when they put an ad out looking for hosts for a children's show, and they said any race except Caucasian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the CBC has maybe done that kind of thing before.
Yeah,
it
in
happens.
2013, yeah, they did that. So yeah, I guess if we wanted to
you
talk about
remembering what year that
discrimination,
happened in, I had to go. I was about to go and get my intern on and go look up what year that was, but
oh, okay.
So if Starbucks offers a free drink on your birthday, but you feel like it's your birthday, is that good enough?
I feel like Starbucks asks you to prove it by showing ID, but I'm not positive because I do not frequent their establishment.
Discriminating bastards.
Well,
Well, at
I
least you can
mean,
pee in their
yes,
bath.
but I discriminate against them based on the basis of I prefer my coffee to be coffee.
Rather than the burnt char-like substance they send out.
Yeah,
I do not like their coffee, and I do not want any of their other beverages, hot, cold, or otherwise. So let's talk about Mandarin, though. So Mandarin's been in business in Ontario. I don't know if they're anywhere else. If you've seen these out west, Ian?
Nope, Ontario only.
Okay.
That I've seen, anyway.
is this
I've
another
only
one of
ever
those,
seen them in
those
Ontario,
Asian
but-
white supremacist companies? Or
They're like a Chinese Canadian Chinese all you can eat restaurant buffet chain. So they've been here for 40 years, and this is the 5th time that they're offering this, something like that. They've done it on previous anniversaries, and the reason they're doing it is because this is their 40th year in business. So they've previously done this in 96, 04, 09, and 2014, all milestone anniversaries for their company. So they're offering Canadians, because the founders immigrated to Canada, they're offering Canadians, someone can prove Canadian citizenship, residency, what have you, a free meal, which I think is a great incentive to go to Mandarin, because I don't like overpriced Chinese Canadian deep fried food, and I don't want to stand in line for it. But if it's free, I mean,
try the orange beef.
I would much rather it was orange chicken, but Panda Express does not exist in Canada. Orange chicken is a totally made up thing, though. Disappointing factoid. It's not actually Chinese food. It was invented in California.
I'd say most of the Chinese quote-unquote food that we eat in Canada is invented in Canada. That's
that's why I said I'm including that important hyphenated Chinese Canadian food buffet. I mean, not my cup of tea, but hey, if you like Mandarin or if you want free food, that's cool. I'm glad they're celebrating that they're being here, and I'm glad that they're doing it by encouraging people to come in and get addicted to. They probably don't put MSG in the food anymore, but whatever it is that they use to keep everybody coming back.
It's the crunch.
I mean, it could be, but the various lawyers that the CBC is quoting is saying that this could be discriminatory, and I would contend that this is in fact discriminatory, because you have to show that you are a Canadian, and I fail to see a problem with a business offering something for free and putting stipulations around who can receive the free thing. This is no business of the government or the labor law lawyers or anybody else.
You could say that they're not telling that anyone that you can't, that you, as for like example, Joe Schmo from England can't get it. He can come to Canada, get his Canadian citizenship, and then get his free food at Mandarin. We're not saying he can't do that. They're just right now he has to show his Canadian citizenship. So he hasn't got there yet. That's all.
Yeah, and I don't see a problem. Like this coincides nicely with Canada Day. This is their 40th anniversary. They're a private business. There's nothing requiring them to give away anything. So that they want to do this for whatever reason, they want to give back to their customers, or they think it's a good PR move, or like whatever this is their business. But like the lawyers being quoted that people could seek damages for the value of the offer as damages for injury, hurt feelings, and loss of dignity. Like this is a reach, and any of this stuff going to trial needs to be immediately shut down by the judge. These sort of malicious lawsuits should absolutely not be awarded any sort of claim or settlement, or like there's nothing that you should get from, like, you should not be able to sue Mandarin for not giving you free food. That this is not discrimination. I mean, it is, but not in the way that you're using the word wrong. Somebody needs to go and get rips out of the Princess Bride for me so I can put them on the soundboard.
I did that once.
The The whole you're using that word wrong one?
Pretty sure.
Really?
Oh well, we'll work on it.
Okay. That would be a good drop to have. I don't even have anything close. I've got
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Inconceivable.
Did you say inconceivable?
Oh, that'd be a good one too.
That's ours. That's ours. I TM that.
That's inconceivable.
Okay, so somebody go and intern, rip this out of the YouTube and send me that little snippet. All right, let's do another one. National Post. We've found why Marty has not been on the show recently. In a case that made Canadian legal history, Ontario man convicted of impaired operation of a canoe.
It's fucking Dutch.
And actually, that's the first, last, and only joke I will make about this case because it's actually pretty sad. There was a child that was killed, but I can't pass up an opportunity to link canoes and Marty together in Dutchness.
Well, I mean, the fact is, like, generally, I always thought, maybe I'm wrong, but isn't an impaired operation of a motor vehicle usually the charge? Like, I mean, it has to be, like, propelled somehow other than by feet or hands. Meaning, like, you know, you can get an impaired charge in a boat, a car, you know, airplane, whatever. Like, as long as it's something that's capable of, you know, gas-powered or mechanical transportation. But how do they do that with a canoe?
You would think that, and it's around a very vague word in the criminal code, and the word is vessel. So the vessel is not specific, and I mean there was legislation in the House recently that was tabled that never went anywhere. That the government was going to try and clean up the language in this section of the criminal code, which didn't happen. So part of this is the judge that was involved looked at a bill that was tabled in the fall of 2017 trying to clarify that paddling a canoe is not the same thing as impaired operation of a motor vehicle, and that never actually went anywhere in the House. So they're using the fact that we didn't have a law as the basis of then it must be illegal because it is not expressly legal. I don't think that's how it works, but I'm also not a lawyer, so.
I feel like if there was no child involved, this wouldn't have happened. Like this.
Oh yeah, 100%. This
happened.
is because of the death of a child, and the family is freaking out and upset and demands justice for their.
Right, but I
But
think
could they not have gone to like criminal negligence causing death or something else?
that makes a lot more sense and plausible.
Yeah.
I would think there are better ways to do this, but apparently the individual in question that was operating the canoe, not the child but the adult, does not drink beer and had 2 coolers and was also discovered with THC in their system at a time when you could not buy the government marijuana. So I'm not sure how they got THC in their system, because clearly if it was banned, they shouldn't have been able to get it.
But,
They were probably at another country and that government lets them do it. That's the only thing I can think of.
I guess that's a possibility I hadn't considered.
Because like, if the government makes something legal, that's it. It's over.
Well, and that's kind of this is kind of like the part of the judge's argument, or I guess that's not the judge's statement of facts. I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV and I do not stay at Holiday Inns, and if I can at all avoid it. But whatever the thing is where they come to make their ruling, the judge in this case is using that logic that because the law does not expressly forbid it, then it must allow it, kind of thing. So I mean, it makes sense that.
Hey, you were on TV.
Like that applies to. I have been on TV. That's true. I am an excellent special skills extra. I have the most special skills, or I'm the most extra, whichever.
by the way, actually, on the mention of TV there, I guess Downrange TV was doing a bunch of filming, so we might, Gavin and myself and Angela, we might end up being TV stars before you know it.
Don't forget your humble beginnings.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, then I'll have to,
us little fella.
I'll have to jump the shark and start my own show, and it'd be like a one-man talk show or something.
I'd watch.
No, maybe not. That didn't work so well for Andrew Craig when he kicked out the guys off Reload Radio, did it?
That's sad. Why are we bringing up bad things?
I think it's. I wonder what criminal negligence leading to death would like what kind of prison sentence that would bring, because it says in the article that he was convicted of all 4 counts of impaired operation of a vessel causing death, operation of a vessel with more than
criminal
80.
negligence causing bodily harm or death is a maximum 10 year.
Which means
Okay.
out in 3. So
So it
Well,
says
and
that
I mean,
with all
like-
the charges, he got, he's like more likely to see, he could get like maximum life imprisonment, but he's likely to see 2 to 10 years. So I was just wondering if maybe they went for the operating a vehicle under the influence being a lesser charge, because I would think, like, logically, it sounds like criminal negligence would have a higher charge than impaired driving. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Well, there's
Maybe
just
not.
so many.
But-
There's so many little spots that when you try to think of like cause and effect and punishment and reward that goes on in this country. You have like, oh, like you could cut someone's head off on a Greyhound bus and eat the eyeballs, and then you can be out like before you know it. Or you can rack up billions and billions of dollars of debt, and they still let you stay prime minister.
Yeah, or you could
It's
kill
just-
children and then go to a healing lodge.
Yeah, you could do that.
I mean, there's lots of cases in this country that don't make a lot of sense, and this is unfortunately one of them. And I don't like the precedent it's setting, because this whole vessels language needs to be cleaned up, and I don't think that we should be having. I don't think our judges should be interpreting things to be expressly prohibited where they are not expressly or implicitly prohibited where they are not expressly permitted.
I
Which
agree.
makes it hard, but I think I have that the right way around.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
see,
agree.
minor libertarian would say like unless it's specifically prohibited, it should be completely legal. Then, I mean, that's the way it should be. But
Yeah, now they're just prohibiting more activities for people who probably will never ever cause a fatality, and it's just when it comes down to it, in my opinion, it should be criminal negligence and should be anything from like 6 months to like 20 years, depending on the severity of the outcome. Like,
yeah, even manslaughter would have stuck better, I would thought. But
yeah, just criminal negligence. You don't have to make a new law and drag this out.
All right, let's do another one. This is on the post-millennial, which will show up later in the show for those of you reading ahead at home. Trudeau government hands out $223 million to fight climate change in the Americas and the Caribbean. Let me read that again slowly. The Trudeau government hands out $223 million to fight climate change in the Americas and the Caribbean. So aside from the fact that I drunkenly stumbled over the same words,
Which is fine.
why are we giving $223 million to not Canada?
yeah, just out of curiosity, I think you and I briefly discussed this. But how much total do you think he's given away to causes and projects outside of Canada in his tenure?
Tens of billions of dollars. We talked about this once, and it was either 2016 or 2017. It was already $1 billion. So
How much of it has actually gone? Like, I know he's pledged a lot, but how much of it has actually gone through?
all of it plus interest.
Uh,
And in fact, because they're running a deficit, this is all borrowed money. But yeah,
I mean, so
and how much were the veterans asking for again? Was it 15 million?
Too much. They were asking for
Well,
too much.
More than they were willing to give. I get that, but I thought it was only something like 15 million. So I just don't
Yeah,
understand the
if-
sheer gall involved.
If we gave veterans $15 million, we wouldn't be able to give $223 million to countries in Latin America and the Caribbean.
I wish this wasn't green tea right now.
Yeah, it's very BC appropriate, though.
Yeah.
Green Party, green tea, climate change. It's very appropriate.
Aged influence, I'm just saying.
So the climate change Barbie was at a conference in Brussels. For everybody following along at home, I of course mean the Minister of Environment, Catherine McKenna. And apparently this announcement was made on the behalf of, and the article gets weirder. Trust me, I don't know how, but it gets weirder. Minister McKenna, on behalf of the Minister of International Development and the Minister for Women and Gender Equality, Marion Monsef, announced that Canada will contribute $223.5 million to Canadian Climate Fund for Private Sector in the Americas, otherwise known as C2F project. So, climate change Barbie, on behalf of somebody that we're still not sure is in the country legally, who is the Minister of International Development and for Women and Gender Equality, is giving my tax dollars to people in Latin America and the Caribbean to fight climate change.
Technically, it's
Somehow.
your kids' dollars because they've already spent yours.
Well, I mean, we could have a whole argument about how the whole like fiat currency isn't even a currency, and like it's all made up anyway. So
That might be for a different show, though.
well, I mean, it's not like it's. I mean, it's not real money. It's not even really money. It's all fiat. And it doesn't actually exist or have any real value. You can't trade it for anything. Actually, it only all works because we have this pre-agreed upon notion of money, because there's a whole social contract around that, but it's not really an actual thing. But yeah, this is probably a little too autistic for the average listener.
Well, it's worth money because people believe it is. That's all.
Yeah,
should
well,
walk
and that's
into-
really all that.
We should walk into a bank and try and give them like your kid's drawing, and when they don't accept it as money, you say it's discrimination because that's
I
your
don't hate the
idea of
idea.
money.
I don't think it's going to work, but I don't hate the idea. So this is this money that we're giving to the C2F project is in addition to money that we gave the same project in 2012, where we gave them $250 million in 2012 money. So not adjusting for inflation, we have given this initiative $500 million of my tax dollars, money that we are leveraging against my great-grandchildren, to fight climate change in not Canada.
Somebody answer your phone.
Sorry.
It's not me, but I was beginning to think that the tinnitus was acting up again. So I don't know what exactly the C2F thing is going to do, and I'm not sure how we're going to encourage private sector investments for renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and forestry, because these are things that, generally speaking, already happen. But I'm not sure why we needed to give them $500 million of my tax dollars to do this in not Canada.
Probably because there's a good kickback scheme in progress.
Let's be honest.
Well,
If they wanted to spend their money wisely, they would have spent that much money in India or China to reduce their input in climate change. But since they're not, they're just quite literally signaling the rest of the world that, look, we're doing something and Canada's pretty awesome, so we're going to try it somewhere else, but not actually make a difference in the climate.
No, we're not. None of this. I have Ron Swanson on climate change, Barbie.
I think that all government is a waste of taxpayer money.
He's not wrong.
Pretty accurate.
I was actually hoping I would click on the button that all government should be dissolved, but I'll take all government as a waste. That works for me. So,
In a couple of 100 years from now, there might be a group of people called Swansonites or something. They might have like their own little religion going. Who knows?
Yeah, and then some guy's gonna come out and be like, that's just an actor, and his real beliefs are complete opposite, and it's gonna be such a downer. I feel bad.
just
for
let me
those
live
people.
vicariously through television like everyone else in my generation.
No, actually, I think if you watch him doing interviews, that's pretty much him.
So, I'm not gonna get into this because I don't know enough.
I did enjoy his book. It was good. Paddle your own canoe. Buy it on Amazon. Use our affiliate link. I really should get affiliate links. Someday when I have free time.
We got to work on your kickbacks, right?
Well, I mean, I'm no South American dictator, but I could use some kickbacks.
That's right.
Let's do another one. We've got a dramatic video shows arrest of 2 murder suspects at Victoria Park Station. This is, of course, in Toronto, and this is from City News. This is a couple of days ago, a week ago. This is June 28th. The video is not spectacular, although there is officers with assault rifles and bicycle helmets. Safety first.
It's like the short bus version of patrol carbine people. They weren't hockey helmets, I guess. So my mistake. Yeah.
No, it was funny to see the all of the police officers involved in the video with patrol carbines or assault rifles, which is really what it should be listed as, or bicycle helmets. But I mean, hey, I guess if you're in Toronto, why not, right? So 2 individuals were rounded up coming off of a bus at Victoria Park Station by dozens of armed officers. The two residents of Toronto are both facing one count of first-degree murder.
Oh.
I'll give you
Like,
a
wondering
guess
why they're-
what they used to commit their murdering with.
Knife.
Oh, I thought did they stab a dude? I thought they shot a dude. I thought the charge was for first-degree murder with firearms.
No, it says, well, it's the related article down below mentions the stabbing.
Oh, it was a
I
stabbing.
just
Okay.
I just assume stabbing because that's like the number one easy way to.
Oh,
off
you know
someone.
what it is? I'm reading ahead. It's another article where we're going to talk about a shooting in Toronto.
I just think it's interesting watching the video. Like some guy's just like standing there like drinking his coffee, and like there are all these cops like running around and tackling guys, and he's just like, whatever, it's all good.
Man,
You
it's
drink my
people
coffee.
this is Toronto. It's people just living in the white, not paying attention, and just standing there and going about their commute.
I'm honestly surprised there wasn't more people circling around this whole scene with their cameras out and recording, or with their phones out recording it. In this day and age, that's what everybody wants to do. Instead of run or hide or, take the person down as well, they just want to film it.
Yeah. Well, some guy I
do
think
like
tried
the,
to step in, but he got
I
pulled
do
away
like
by
the
cops.
cop with the sleeve, like the full sleeve, the one female officer that's got like her whole arm tattooed.
What, like the yellow snake?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I enjoy the diversity of the Toronto police force. One of them has a tattoo. That's diversity, right?
Close.
Okay, sold. So, people in Toronto doing dumb things, being arrested by the police. And of course, no one is terribly concerned about it because it's the police. And these people are probably not that dangerous. They're only going around murdering people.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the one eyewitness account. I want to share there was one piece in the article that was worth reading. A witness told City News he was waiting for a bus at Victoria Park Station when he noticed a sudden and ominous police presence. Dun dun dun! An ominous police. Seriously? The fuck out of here. Toronto, man.
Yeah.
Like, most of these people didn't even notice that there were police running around and arresting people at this station, never mind that they were ominous.
Well, I'm glad they got those two guys off the street for now.
Well, until they get out, which should be any time now since they'll have already appeared in court, but, whatever.
Hopefully they're out by now. Yeah.
Let's do another one. This is relevant.
What's sad though is they were probably just trying to turn their life around.
Yeah, they're only in their 50s and 60s. I'm sure they'll get there.
Yeah.
They really were. Like, once, I don't remember, 51 and 63, 61 and 53, something like that. All right, from the Conservative Bashing Corporation, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Canadian news site The Post Millennial blurs the line between journalism and conservative pamphleteering. So we have actually been sourcing stuff from The Post Millennial fairly regularly of late. And they build themselves as a center-right news outlet. And they want to be your reasonable alternative and to accurately and adequately report Canadian news and events as they unfold and progress. Which sounds pretty reasonable for a media outlet, in my opinion.
It's like the same thing that's going on YouTube. It's just the, old media dying, trying to, head off new media before it kills them completely.
I mean, you're probably not wrong. Like, this is an old new media issue. That is likely part of it. It's also that, in my estimation, it's also the whole false left-right political dichotomy, because that doesn't really take into account the other factors on the political spectrum, because they want to pretend it's just a single x-axis kind of an equation. Like, there's just the left side and the right side. It doesn't take into account y and z axes. Whiskies. There's two ways to spell it. That's the important part.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Yeah.
think it's just. I mean, the CBC doesn't like competition, and the fact that these guys are probably doing just as well, if not better, than the CBC without massive government subsidies, probably pissing them off a bit.
Well, and this is part of the fun with the CBC, right? Because the CBC is impugning their journalistic integrity. Meanwhile, they're taking like literal kickbacks from the government to stay in business because they could not operate if the government was not funding them. So I mean, we've talked about the yellow journalism on the CBC before. We've talked about that at length. We've talked about the whole government giving them $300 million. Is that the current funding?
Wasn't it 6?
I think it was 6 for everyone.
Oh,
Six for
six.
everyone. But
Yeah,
I thought
that's
I thought the CBC's government operating budget, or I thought like the money the government is giving the CBC that's being used to keep them in operations was like $300 million a year, something to that effect. But yeah, $600 million a year to be dished out to reliable news sources, as deemed so by the Prime Minister's office. You know, so anyone who's not accusing him of wearing funny socks. So we're not getting money. So the post millennial is fairly new, I guess. If people have not been around to follow them as they've grown, they only started in like 2016 or 2017, and they've recently become more popular. They're getting a significant amount of traffic in the last year or so. I don't really see any issue with any of the things that they're doing, though. So the complaint from the CBC primarily is the lack of transparency and their ties to conservative politicians. I don't see how that's really any different than anything that the CBC is doing, or the Toronto Star, or any other set of journalism. It's just that it's not incredibly left leaning, so they seem to be deeply offended by it.
Well, they're also deeply offended the fact that they're able to put it out with much less overhead and what do you call it, logistical support. Like they're doing it more with less, and it's probably not looking too well for them. Maybe.
Well, I mean that's the whole old media, new media paradigm, which I'd be okay if the CBC went away, and if the Toronto Star can't afford to operate, I'd be okay if they went away too, because I place no value in this, and I don't care if these people have jobs or not, because if you're a decent journalist, someone else will pay you to be a journalist, and if you're not, then they won't, because that's how the free market works. If you have a product or service that other people want, you can set a price and they'll buy it, and if you
Learn
set
to
it
code.
high, they won't. Well, I mean, I guess you could learn to code or not.
I would say that on Twitter, but I don't want to get banned.
Oh, is that a Twitter ban now?
Yeah,
code is a Twitter ban.
If you say it to a journalist.
Oh,
Yeah. So the CBC not only are they getting like the millions and millions of dollars a year from the Canadian government, they're still reeing for government interference in the free market. So because they're still feel threatened by these people.
they are, and they don't want the Post Millennial to be treated as a legitimate news organization, because some of their part-time writers are involved in political processes and volunteer for political campaigns, and I don't see that being any different than people that write for the CBC, because we see this from CBC journalists. You remember the whole like anyone but Harper thing? That it was CBC journalists. There was like 4 or 5 of them in a photo. We covered this a couple of years ago, and it was.
They were also teachers union, weren't they? Like.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was a teachers union. It was not Harper.
Oh, that was the singing idiots. Yeah, who was saying that.
Because they wanted to. They were very upset at Doug Ford, and it was the teachers union, and it was a bunch of journalists that were in bed with the union, and they were vowing to not allow for any cuts to the school funding in Ontario.
Yeah.
So I don't see how that's any different than volunteering for a political campaign. Like, at least the post millennials being honest about it. I don't think being favorable, like intentionally favorable to one political party or ideology over another is any better or worse, but like at least the post millennials being honest about it.
Yeah. But there's no counterpart in Canada that's getting the same amount of funding as the CBC is to be as right.
Oh, not even remotely close.
Yeah. In
well,
fact,
and that's part of the problem that I have with this article is they go and they get a bunch of input from quotes from political or journalism professors, political professors in Canada and the United States, and they're talking about how post-millennial is this pro-conservative. It's not center-right. There's nothing center about it. It's pro-conservative. Well, I'm sorry. Conservatism in Canada is barely center-right. Like, it's barely in the center. It may as well not be. To say it is right-leaning is kind of a stretch. Find me something significantly different in the Conservative Party platform over the Liberal Party platform that's right-leaning. There is nothing particularly conservative or right-wing about the Conservative Party. It's liberal light.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that makes it right-leaning is the position of the Liberal and the NDP parties. They're so far left, that center is right. Center's the new right, man.
Yeah, so I don't see this as pamphleteering. I don't see that. I mean, I spend a lot of time reading a lot of news sources and a lot of media, and I don't really believe any of it. But I mean, I'm incredibly skeptical and jaded of all of these people, right, left, or otherwise, and anyone claiming to be any of these things, because it's not a right-left dichotomy. And to look at it in that simplistic worldview, I don't take you seriously as a writer.
So, one thing that never made it into the discussion, the panelist discussion in the past week was, does anyone remember that there was a story about the Liberal Party is promising, like, they're trying to get legislation passed that they can expend like $600 million up to the election, without
Oversight.
without any oversight, without having to say where it's going.
Yeah, that was a slush fund they were trying to start up, was it not? Like, just like a
So they haven't started it up, but
yeah, they were just mentioning the discretionary fund, but I don't know if they covered that before they rose for the summer.
yeah, okay. That was now that I think about that, that wasn't really a news story, but it was, I think, Sharon Stubbs or one of the other
Well, I
Conservative
think they
Party
talked about
members.
doing
I
an
think
order in
maybe
council.
Michelle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they talked about ordering council for it, but I don't think it went through.
Yeah.
Because they blew the whistle on it right away. So
Yeah.
we need an intern quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, not going to happen. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I think that's.
So,
there was a thing. It's roughly what I said, and Ian helped.
That was inconceivable.
Damn, inconceivable.
Oh. All right, that's the show title. I'm putting that in the notes right now.
All right, where can we find you, Benny? Let's wrap it up. It's called right there. 9:59.
Shortest show ever.
Your show ain't getting better now. We pull out the big guns.
All right, no, I'm putting that in the notes. That might be the show title. All right, let's look at the CBC one more time. I promise it's the last time we're gonna look at CBC today. Scheer vows to scrap clean fuel standard, calls Liberal plan a secret fuel tax.
Well, why would they be secret about it now? They've been in your face about all the rest of them.
Well, I guess this new one that they're. So this is not the carbon tax. This is not the existing thing. It's another thing that we're doing to help reduce carbon emissions and meet our targets under the Paris Climate Accord. Scheer somehow has arrived at the figure that the price of gas will increase 4 cents a liter through this new plan. The plan is actually the government is going to require a cleaner fuel supply, which I'm not very sure what that means. I am not a petrochemical engineer any more than I am a journalist or a doctor or judge, any of the other professions that I have picked on today. But I don't know how you make gasoline more clean.
You refine it more, maybe? I don't know. I'm not an expert.
Yeah, I don't know how you could, like, it already, like, it doesn't get cleaner. It's already been refined. It burns a certain way. I don't see how we could make it cleaner, but apparently we're going to increase the price of things and require companies to make the fuel products that they sell cleaner in an effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, it's interesting because they talked about reducing the carbon intensity of the liquid fuels, which is kind of the equivalent of putting ethanol in it, is it not? Because I mean, you get less bang for your buck with ethanol additions in your gas. And by carbon intensity, is that what they're trying to get at, saying they want a little more corn thrown in there?
I don't. Well, and the whole corn subsidies thing is another thing because I don't feel like ethanol is actually a more environmentally friendly fuel source. Yes, okay, so you can take corn
it's not.
and
It
you can
actually takes more. Yeah, it takes more energy to make the ethanol than you actually get out of it. So
And you gotta
Right,
burn the
and that's-
diesel fuel to get the ethanol. Yeah.
yeah, you gotta plant the corn, you gotta
You
burn
ever
the diesel
seen the
fuel, you gotta
tractors?
run the
The
fuel
black
inefficient
smoke.
tractors.
Yes.
So you have to do all of this work to get the ethanol, and then you have to use more fuel because the ethanol gasoline is less efficient, produces less energy per volume of gasoline than regular gasoline would have. So I don't
not to mention that
really understand how we're going to make the fuel cleaner and more better,
Yeah, I
less
think
polluting.
I stay firmly away from ethanol, but I can think it's not an exaggeration to say I was losing like 10-15% of my mileage by using ethanol.
Well, yeah, I mean, and not to mention the fact they still, on top of what Andrew mentioned, they still do actually need to use natural gas to make fertilizer. So, I mean,
Fertilizer, diesel fuel, like
Yeah.
the
crazy.
manufacturing and refinement processes all require a bunch of other input energy. It doesn't like the only people benefiting from ethanol is corn farmers, and the only reason corn farmers benefit from ethanol production is because of corn subsidy. The only good use for corn is turning it into shitty American whiskey.
Popcorn.
Corn chips.
cow feed.
Shitty American whiskey.
May or may not have partaken in some of that shitty American whiskey down there at the charity shoot. Just saying.
The best part about corn is it takes up soy area. No more.
That's true. You can't plant soy if your field is already in corn. Yeah, I don't see how this is going to help, and I don't see how this
whiskey
is
or
going
gay bombs, baby. What would you rather have?
I mean,
What do you think tap water is? It's a gay bomb, baby.
so I don't see how this hidden tax. I don't know. Tax maybe isn't the right word, but I don't see how this is going to make our energy products cleaner or reduce greenhouse gas emissions or get us to what we've agreed to in the Paris Climate Accord, which is a thing we should have never agreed to. And if we had a real right-leaning party, they would vow to extricate us from that situation in which we find ourselves doing this ridiculous thing. Meanwhile, China literally just keeps throwing plastic product manufacturing excess into the ocean. Like the whole, you can't make PVC anywhere except China, but China just literally makes hundreds of tons of PVC and then casts all the off products into the ocean. So I don't follow.
Yeah, I just wish Scheer would quit saying things like it's a secret fuel tax. Like it just say what is that? Just say it will raise the price of fuel. Like we're not kids. We don't need the boogeyman waved in front of us. Like
Did he actually say that, or is that the CBC saying it?
No, Scheer says it in his letter to the Prime Minister.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's not.
I can picture Scheer standing up and saying that, but in reality, it's a secret fuel tax.
Well, let me give you.
But can you imagine if it was, guys? Can you imagine though?
Imagine I ate a lot more soy, not corn chips, but like a lot of soy, and also loved milk and the milk cartel. So if you're imagining a lot of milk and a lot of soy, I'm going to read this. Your secret fuel tax will undoubtedly increase the cost of gasoline by at least another 4 cents a liter, a fact you continue to hide. It is also an unprecedented tax that will apply to all fuel sources, including the fuel used for manufacturing and home heating, which will make Canadian business less competitive and gas more expensive. How was that? Did I sound like I ate a lot of soy?
Yeah.
Well, that is a quote from Scheer, which I hope I put. an equal amount of enthusiasm in as what he would have done when he actually read that to a journalist or someone who works for the CBC, whichever.
Find someone who looks at you the way Scheer looks at the milk cartel.
Wow.
Oh, they keep me
It's,
employed.
Well, we all have to wage cuck now and then.
I wish they'd employ me a little more often, but that's a side point.
Well, let's go over to Durham Radio News. This is a website I had not frequented before, and we'll try to avoid in the future, but it was the only place I could find the details of this particular call. Water gunfight on Toronto roof prompts huge police response. So this is from July the 5th. A group of people spraying each other with water guns in Toronto on a rooftop were met by the emergency task force from the Toronto police after a series of 911 calls.
Well, you can see the problem right off the bat looking at the picture. Like, clearly those water pistols were prohib. The barrel length is way too short. I don't blame them.
Who the hell is calling the police for that?
I think they were swatting them, basically. Like, I think somebody put it in the comments below there, too. Is like, yeah, it's, you're basically endangering people by calling the police for something stupid like this. Because people, police will get all excited to show up and they see something in somebody's hand, and before you know it, somebody gets hurt. It's dumb. I mean, especially on a hot day. Like, seriously.
I like the second comment from the top. The people that reported them are idiots. Yeah.
Where's the lie?
Where's the lie? It's somewhere. It's not before that or the 5 periods after it.
All right, let's do another. We've got a bunch of gun stuff to sort of round things out. Next one's on DennisYoung.ca. Pardon me, DennisRYoung.ca. It's important to include all the letters. 813 guns lost and stolen from police and public agencies between 2005 and 2019. So I guess everybody in podcast land that doesn't know Dennis, Dennis Young has a lot of free time on his hands. If I'm not mistaken, he's a retired police officer, and he files a lot of access to information requests and then compiles the data. Yeah, okay, RCMP, retired RCMP. Good interning. Well done. So he's done an access to information.
Thank you.
And the breakdown is spectacular. 640 firearms lost between 2005 and 2019. And this is as of July 3rd, 2019. The year is not over yet, but let's just go with that. 640 firearms lost, 173 firearms stolen. I mean, we tend to cover those activities when the police lose a gun or drive away and the shotgun falls off the back of a cruiser, or they leave their C7 laying around where it shouldn't be. We cover those activities, or when certain Toronto cops have improperly stored handguns stolen out of their cars after the heavy night of drinking.
I like when they lose. Only before they fabricate the stories, though.
Yeah. Well, obviously,
Yeah,
was that Toronto or Peel region? It was somebody in the GTA that fabricated stories about their escapades at various nightclubs and having their handguns stolen out of their car.
I like when they lose grenade launchers. That's what I like.
Well, I'm a fan of one of the, there's a couple of categories in here. So Dennis has gone through and done a bunch of work, broken this all down. The police have managed to lose a machine gun.
What machine guns do they had one stolen and one lost? What machine guns do Canadian police agencies employ exactly?
I don't know what they employ, but I can tell you with some level of certainty that the Toronto Police Service maintains an arsenal. I feel like an arsenal is more than 5, right? An arsenal of Thompson submachine guns.
No, that's only in. I thought that was only in BC.
Oh my
God!
God.
I can tell you with a reasonable amount of certainty that the Toronto Police Service has a number of Thompson guns in their collection.
They just never got rid of them. They had them in the 60s as issue, right? And then they just kept them after that.
Kept them. They don't. Yeah, they're not something you see on the street. They're not used, but they are in the weapons locker.
Pardon me for skipping ahead, but in 2015 they lost 10 submachine guns.
Well, so they've managed to lose 13 subguns overall, 1 machine gun lost, 1 machine gun stolen, There's some other guns, handguns, rifles, shotguns, and there's also something listed as other, which I would love to know what those are, because other guns lost 2, other guns stolen 1. I
Phase
should like to know
plasma
what falls
rifle
into
in the
that.
40-watt range.
I mean, maybe. I would like to know what the other category is comprised of.
It's an
I mean-
ethanol-fired energy ray.
But losing 13 submachine guns, I mean, I know they use MP5s in certain cases as well. So I mean, that's a lot of nice H&K products sitting there floating around in the open market now.
Yeah, I mean, it's practically Mexican numbers.
That
I mean,
did
H&K,
not
they
help.
hate you and you
You're-
suck, but hey, we'll sell the cartels.
Yeah, you're so fast and furious, Andrew.
I see what
Hurting
you've
for
done
that,
there.
though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, lots of
Jesus
handguns
Christ.
lost and stolen, lots of rifles lost and stolen, like a remarkable number.
So he puts this on the website himself
Yeah, so Dennis compiles all the access to information
with his address on there.
responses. Well, I mean, I'm not going to mess with the dude, are you?
No, he probably has like 13 submachine guns.
Out of curiosity, let's see what that address will yield. Allow me to do some quick interning.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
Oh, yeah, that is a residential neighborhood, and that is a nice looking home. All right.
Wait, what? His address? Okay.
Did you notice
Right.
what Dennis's
Oh.
consulting group is called?
I had not, no.
It's was one of the contenders for the new High Point pistol. It's Problem Solvers Consulting Group.
That's very good. That's
I was like,
very good.
well done, Dennis. Well done.
That is pretty bold that he put his address on there.
Well,
Yeah. It's a bold move, Cotton.
We'll see if it works out for him.
well, places that things have not worked out. Let's go back to Toronto, because the place that I love to hate. This is
They
very-
make it so easy.
Well, this is very new. This is current. This is today's news. So I'd like my share of that $600 million for CPP anytime. Whenever the Liberal government can get around to that, as soon as maybe Minister McKenna comes back from her climate change summary and giving all of my money away to other countries that I don't care about, maybe she wants to give me some money for journalism here in Canada. We're up to today's news now. Queen Street West shut down by Toronto police after multiple people shot. 2 articles. Blog TO is the first one. Another one. Toronto police investigation triple shooting near Queen and Ossington. That's on Global News. Between the 2 of them, the facts as I can figure them out. 3 people were shot after last call, approximately 2:30 a.m. in the neighborhood of Queen Street West and Ossington Avenue in Toronto. 3 individuals were shot with varying degrees of injury due to gunshot wound. It is unclear if they were the only 3 involved or if they were the victims of the shooting or whatnot. One of the individuals was taken to hospital in life-threatening condition, and Queen and Ossington was closed for a significant length of time today. How did these people get an ATT to go to a bar in downtown Toronto?
I know the
This
phone.
has not been
the whole
adequately answered.
Well, the whole
Yes.
time on the CFO's phone line must be horrendous nowadays. Man,
I do enjoy that there is not the bar that this took place near, but just north of Queen and Ossington is a place that I would like to try called Bang Bang Ice Cream and Bakery. Yes. It's possible they were just really excited, I guess. But,
There's
yeah,
not much
so
to
there's
say
a bunch.
about this.
There's
just
a bunch
one
of bars
shooting
in
in
this
Toronto.
neighborhood, and people in Toronto are shooting one another. So naturally, Mayor Tory is blaming everyone except for criminals. I think we should ban Toronto, and if we can't ban Toronto, we should ban bars in Toronto, because clearly they are the culprit of a lot of this violent gun crime that's taking place, because people seem to keep getting shot in, around, and near bars in Toronto. So if we can't ban Toronto, we should at least ban bars in Toronto.
Seems reasonable.
All right, let me
Why
get
not?
my John Tory quote. I don't know what the I don't know. Does that sound like a lot of soy? It probably does. The people that emerge from bars and places of entertainment early in the morning on many days of the week are a continuing challenge for us. But the real problem is not people coming out of places like that, whether they have had a lot to drink or nothing to drink. The real problem is people carrying guns in their pockets in the city and deciding they're going to use them.
No,
Does he know?
Um,
Does he know that that's
I
already
would-
illegal?
Well, and that's where I would like to make my editorials and corrections is this should read, the real problem is criminals carrying guns. That's how that last sentence ought to have read.
Yeah,
because
deciding to use it and deciding to carry it is not two different problems. It's the same problem.
Well, and I mean, like, I would love to be able to decide to carry a gun, and then there are opportunities where I may decide I should use that gun. But I don't feel like that's the situation here, that these people are walking around with, like, registered, licensed handguns that they are carrying with an authorization to transport or,
Authorization to carry
thank you. I
or
was trying
anything
to,
else?
yeah, like, I don't think that's the case here, that these people have ATCs and they're allowed to be carrying loaded handguns in downtown Toronto.
Well, see, that's your problem, Andrew. Is you have a respect for law, like the rule of law. So, I mean, like, you should just, do what these
Well,
guys do. Just ignore it.
Less and less every day.
Yeah. How dare you
Right.
follow the law?
Well, and this is the problem, is there is no one there to return fire when these people start shooting at 2:30 in the morning. I'm not saying that they should come to my neighborhood and find out, but I'm also saying that if you stumble out of the bar in my neighborhood at 2:30 in the morning and start shooting people, you should be prepared to receive rounds back. That's how that works. This is a Toronto problem because you have criminals in Toronto that you refuse to allow your police force to actually police.
Or even get sentenced properly when they do get policed, so to speak, or they get arrested.
Well, and I'd like to find out when more comes out about this. Hopefully, for next week's show, we can find out. Was this amongst the three of them? Was this some sort of a civil issue between the three of them, or was this like, oh, some gangsters came out of bar and some other gangsters decided to execute a drive-by at that time and were just bad at it? Right? Like, is this gang violence between different people, or is these three people that got like into a drunken altercation and one of them has a burner on them? Like, like it's far too early and there's no information about it. But I hope that stuff gets released so we can find out what. Because I'm curious how this came about. Because how did these people get permits to have these guns in downtown Toronto?
Actually, one of the commentary on YouTube brought up a good point. The real question is how many of these guns used in Toronto are police issue?
That's
Meaning, like they might have been stolen from the vault, is what they're saying.
We'll have to talk to Dennis and
yeah,
see if we can get an access to information. I don't know what's going on with my YouTube. I was like, what comment? But it seems like YouTube was actually hiding my comments, and I had to click a button to see the chat today.
Oh.
So that's fun.
Yeah, no, interesting. Like down the road, I would love to see if they'd ever have kept track of serial numbers that's gone missing from police evidence lockers and then ended up back in the evidence locker under a different crime. But of course, I'm sure they'd bury that as best they could. But it'd be very interesting to see if that ever became a thing.
Unlikely.
They'd never admit that.
Well, of course, yeah, you'd have a tough time ever getting them to admit that. But anyway,
I just want. Weird side note, I just keep noticing that every article on this, they always show the fire department cleaning the blood off the sidewalk.
Yeah, because it's scary and sad. Somebody got shot. Now the fire department has to hose it down.
That's what we pay our fire department to do? Clean the streets? Like, really?
Well, in Toronto.
Well, the vast majority of fire department calls aren't for fires. They're more like motor vehicle accidents or assorted, such as this stuff.
Like, I understand them being there. I thought it was weird that 1010 had their video that they tweeted was just a firefighter scrubbing the sidewalk.
Yeah, you can't find a cop to do that. Okay, well, I thought police bashing would be funny, but I guess not. Fine.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I
Let's
could have gone
move
on.
along.
But I was going to go into.
So-
doesn't matter.
This has been fun. Let's do rapid fire feedback. This is from Not a Commie on iTunes. Rating is 5 stars. The title is Not a Commie in Burnaby. And the review reads, love the show. I think Canada needs an answer to the MAGA hat. I was thinking, Mekpagain Timsa Fa. And if that's not self-explanatory, it means it means make Canada pretty good again. If it's not too much trouble, sorry for asking. And while that is not a bad sentiment, I feel like a marketing slogan needs to be memorable and to the point, and this is not.
It's
But I do appreciate the feedback.
distinctly Canadian, though.
It is very Canadian. I mean, you did say sorry. You did not use any
Right.
of the other Canadianisms. If you could get an a boot or an A,
You could call it McGain Mitzvah. McGain Mitzvah.
No, they're not selling French fries. They're selling hats.
Almost sounds Jewish.
different kind of hat, I
McGain.
think. All right, let's do the outro. Ian, I heard you have another podcast that you are occasionally on.
Yeah, occasionally. Like, so we might be back online here by Wednesday. So you can email me directly at theislandtreat@gmail.com. You can also find me on Canadian Prepper Podcast. It's now on iTunes as well. We record the podcast live on my YouTube channel called Canadian Prepper Podcast.
Benny, that was a very delicate sneeze. I understand you also have a podcast.
Yeah, New Shooter Canada. I try and get on there every once in a while. But visit me on my website, bennylewis.ca. Pick up some speed loaders or some good educational books for your kids.
I just listened to my first New Shooter podcast the other day, Benny. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah, thanks.
I definitely bought one of your books for my kid.
Which one?
ABC of Guns. It was very funny.
Nice. That one's very popular.
I forgot to mention that. That was one of the auction items at the charity shoot. I noticed it right away. I was like, hey. So you had your own little section there.
Awesome. I hope they made some money for the organization.
Well, there's a bit of an inside joking going on there because there was 2 kids in the audience, and so we had to have a PG version of the live podcast that we recorded. And we talked about story time with Gallon, which there's a much saltier story to be told. But in the interim, because somebody mentioned story time with Gallon and the kids wanted to hear it, he pulled out the ABC of Guns and started reading it on the podcast to the kids. And they were just enthralled with it. They were just like watching him like he was the coolest guy on the planet. And it was well done. And then once the kids left and the after party happened, I heard the real story, which was much funnier too, but not YouTube appropriate.
No. Storytime with Gallon is not age appropriate for anyone. I don't care how old you are.
I've never had the pleasure.
Oh, I've been subjected to Storytime with Gallon. It is very entertaining, but it's also the sort of thing that you want to have a shower with afterwards, but like with bleach.
Yeah.
He's a character. He's the character. Tim, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at the Op Missile match in Guelph on Saturday.
Oh, I guess that's a good point. Upcoming events. We didn't really talk about that because now the charity shoot's over. But OPMSL, Op Missile, Match 2, Guelph, this weekend, Saturday, July 13th? Yeah, 13th is Saturday. You can't register. You can't sign up. The match is full. Too bad, so sad. Get on the Facebook and try and get into the next match when it gets announced because this one was full like in a few days. Yeah, if you're not on the Instagram, you probably should be. Facebook is sad, and Instagram has pictures of things I like and guns. Yeah, you should come out to an Op Missile match. I guess if you're in Ontario, you should also come out to CQB and Service Rifle and Precision Rifle, all of which I have a hand in one way or another, whether I'm running them, organizing them, helping them, or conducting the range safety stuff for them, or competing at them. You should, if you're in Ontario, you should come and shoot all the service disciplines: Service Rifle, CQB, Precision Rifle. If you're not in Ontario, well, I feel bad for you, son, but you have a PRA. You should probably go and join. They might have a cool program, or they might shoot target rifle, in which case enjoy your tea break at 2. I think that's everybody. Small panel tonight. For everybody in podcast land, I guess we should remind you, if you want to send us feedback, go to the website, CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback, or click on the feedback link, or you can just email us. Email for the show is feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. If you leave us a 5-star review, that would be super cool. I would appreciate it. As always, my name has been Andrew. You should check out RagnarokTactical.ca if you need anything, tactical accessories, high-speed gear, medical supplies, anything like that. Use the discount code Patriot at checkout. You'll save some money. It's good. It means I get to ship you stuff, but it doesn't cost you full price. And we need to apologize to Rod Giltaka. Ian forgot to duel him at the podcaster charity shoot, so you have another year to train and get ready for next year, I guess.
Work on my game a bit, for sure.
I was talking to Rod directly, but if you want to work on your game, that's cool too.
Okay, fair enough.
For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.